Ready, be ready, start. It was rightly contended by learned counsel for the state that the trial court had proceeded in the matter rather casually and there was no proper application of mind or even discussions regarding all the relevant evidence on record. Since the trial court had failed to properly analyze the evidence, the High Court was duty bound to examine the matter in greater detail and to record its conclusions. It is true that when on the evidence brought on record, two views are possible and the court has taken a view which is possible, interference by the appellate court would not be proper, but where the consideration reflects total non-application of mind, interference is not only desirable but proper. We find that extrajudicial confession, which was claimed to be before PWs 5 and 6, was unjustifiably discarded by the trial court. The evidence of PW 6 was discarded on the ground that he was not very close to the accused and not a person on whom the accused could repose confidence. It is brought on record that the accused and PW6 were in fact at earlier point of time classmates and schoolmates. They also used to live close to each other. Obviously, it is not impossible that the accused could repose confidence on him. The extrajudicial confession before PW6 was clear, cogent, and appears to have been made in the normal course without any pressure. The conduct of the accused after the incident and discovery of blood-stained articles and the Mangal Sutra have been established by tendering cogent evidence. The presence of blood in the nail clippings of the accused was also a vital circumstance, new para. As noted by this court in Baldev Rai versus State of Odisha 2003 9 SCC 310, the presence of blood in the nail clipping may not be sufficient by itself to fasten guilt on the accused, but when it is considered with other evidence and found acceptable can provide additional weightage to the prosecution case. The trial court did not seem to consider objectively the evidence in the right perspective and had merely on surmises and conjectures without proper application of mind directed acquittal. The High Court analyzed the evidence in greater detail and exhaustively, having regard to the perfunctory manner of consideration undertaken by the trial court. We find no infirmity in the reasoning indicated by the High Court to discard the view of the trial court. The disclosure made in the post-mortem examination as to the nature of injuries found on the body of the deceased would the claim of drowning or death by suicide. Any affirmance of the judgment of the trial court in this case would have resulted to grave miscarriage of justice. The judgment of the High Court, though one of reversal, was well merited, supported of sound reasons and based on overwhelming evidence and therefore does not warrant interference. Appeal is accordingly dismissed. The bail bonds of the accused are cancelled and he shall surrender to custody to serve remainder of sentence, new para. The factual matrix of the case is that the plaintiff respondent filed a suit against the defendant appellant for recovery of possession and damages, alleging that she had purchased the suit property out of her own funds and she is absolute owner, but part of the property was under the illegal occupation of the appellant defendant, who opposed the suit, contending that the suit property was a Hindu undivided family property having been purchased in the name of the respondent using the funds of his grandfather, father and himself, and not purchased purchased by the respondent as she was housewife having no income, full stop. The appellant defendant further pleaded that though there was a dispute regarding his ownership and possession, the same was settled between all the family members by the compromise deed dated 22/10/1997. The respondent filed an application under Order 17, Rule 6 of the Code of Civil Procedure for passing a decree in her favor on the ground that a suit for partition which had earlier been filed by the appellant on the same ground, that is the suit property was a HUF property, had been dismissed by the district court by judgment dated 8/9/2003 and affirmed by the High Court by judgment dated 12/9/2011, and the respondent contended that the same amounted to an admission by the appellate that the respondent was entitled to possession, full stop. The trial court held that though the judgment dated 8/9/2003 of the district court and judgment dated 12/9/2011 of the High Court had rejected the plea of the appellant that the suit property was a HUF property, these findings were made in a suit for partition, whereas the present suit was filed for recovery of possession and damages. The trial court further held that for passing a decree under Order 17, Rule 6 CPC, the defendant had to make an unqualified admission, full stop. The appellant herein has not made such an admission regarding his liability to pay damages claimed by the respondent. The trial court dismissed the application by the judgment dated 7/6/2013. Aggrieved by the judgment of the trial court, the respondent filed a revision petition before the High Court. The High Court, while allowing the appeal and decreeing the suit with cost, held that the pleas taken by the appellant defendant regarding the contribution made by his grandfather, father and himself in the purchase of the suit property had been rejected by the High Court by the judgment dated 12/9/2011, and the same will operate as res judicata. The High Court further held that while there was no evidence for holding that the suit property to be a HUF property, the title deeds of the property and the land records stood in favor of the respondent plaintiff, full stop. The High Court noted that the only new plea taken by the defendant in his written statement was that he was a co-owner by the compromise dated 22/10/1997 and held that this plea was barred on the grounds of constructive res judicata, having not been raised earlier in the partition suit filed by the defendant, full stop. New para. We have heard learned counsel for the parties at some length. It is true that the trial court had, while discharging the accused persons under the special act mentioned above, made certain observations about the alleged misuse of the provisions of the said act by unscrupulous elements, and also certain suggestions for remedying that situation, full stop. It is also true that the trial court had come to the conclusion that there is no real basis for it to frame any charge against the accused persons under the said act, but it is equally true that while setting aside that order and directed a fresh order on the question of charge, the High Court was clearly mentioned that the trial court shall remain uninfluenced by the observation made in its earlier order, full stop. That observation is, in the opinion of the High Court, a sufficient safeguard against any possible prejudice to the complainant appellant herein making transfer of the case from the court at Rohini to any other court unnecessary, full stop. Now, in the ordinary course, if an order passed by the court is set aside, the observations and findings recorded therein also get obliterated for all intents and purposes, full stop. So, also if the High Court makes the position clear that Any such observation shall not influence the court or concerned while making a fresh order. The same would ordinarily put the matter beyond the pale of any controversy. Full stop. Thank you.